lead them movement to music. She's sort of a collaborative process here training for music, and she's done quite a bit of writing in support of the Guild and other venues. So she's been a really important contributor to the field for many, many years, and is now teaching at, tell me one more time.
Teach School of the Arts and
Teach School of the Arts, and then she's doing a spec replacement for Andy Warsh.
No, it's acoustic.
So welcome to our session. Alan talked a bit in the first hour about how can we empower dancers to take responsibility for their musical knowledge. And I think one of the ways in which we do that is through our Music for Dance courses. So Joseph is going to open the session talking about learning history, his Music for Dance course. Rob has had some revelations in his music courses, teaching music literature, the creative process. And then we'd like to open it up for discussion. Kathy is going to open that up with a short presentation about some ideas that she's had about what do we want these dancers to know about music for dance and that relationship. So I will turn it over to Joe.
I thought what I would do today is present an overview of the course that I teach at Madison. And of course, this is the prime course for undergraduate dance majors. I just give you an idea of our curriculum at Madison for the dance majors in music. We do have, I trust many people do, have a course that's specifically about rhythmic training, which I don't teach. That class is more based in movement, rhythmics, but it's all geared towards learning meter and rhythm. It's a 2-credit class we use primarily Rob's book. And then we decided that as part of the flow of the undergraduate curriculum, students should take kind of a basic music appreciation course, which is offered by the School of Music. So before they come to me in their theoretically sophomore year, which of course never works out, I have senior year where you graduate and all this. But anyway, they would take this music appreciation, which I'm sure they don't know exactly, but I'm trusting that we'll cover the eras of music, the literature of Western classical art and music, so we'll have some basic literacy in that realm. Anyway, with my course, which is a 3-credit course, I thought we would use this as a springboard because for years I did not do a lot of the specific teaching for the dance majors at UW, which is a tremendous long story, which of course we won't get into. But I spent most of my time and energy doing the program into arts and technology, so I did all that. Anyway, now I'm back doing more music, dance type of courses. So I had to look at this whole area and try to revise it. I've been in touch with some people, part of the Guild, looking at what they do, what their course outlines are about, etc. I think, geez, this is a real nebulous area. I don't know what really resonates well with these students. It's really tricky. Okay, so I'm trying to put this creature together, and it's always in a state of flux and evolution. So, anyway, what I'm doing right now is this, and I'll walk you through what my world is right now. The way I start off is by trying to get the dancers to be able to ascertain phrasing, overall form, etc. by ear. Because for me, I'm thinking, yeah, that is so crucial for dancers to be able to hear what's happening in at least the musical form of pieces. And we're talking about musical pieces where those things are building blocks. So we did some exercises. I have to start real simply, so we start with little block pieces. But I thought, yeah, got to get something that's kind of interesting off their radar. So I even used a piece of old surf music mentions. I thought, yeah, this is kind of cool. This and that, this stuff related to the can they hear it by ear? And I walked through it, etc. So we start off with that, and then the other wild and crazy idea, which I'm notorious for having, is I thought, okay, what can make this more real? Because to me, the whole idea is how do you get these people out of just making this an intellectual exercise? So I thought, yeah, we'll use GarageBand. Okay. So I thought, yeah, they can learn that, Yeah. do that. So, in GarageBand, I had them, I say, take some loops, be a music editor, come up with a form, but be able to explain it and show me that it works. So you can hear it, you can now actually create it. And that seemed to spark some interest. They liked that a lot. But then I thought, okay, now we're going to do some hard stuff. Because instead of using these loops, which of course we know is, interesting. So okay, we're going to MIDI on GarageBand, and we're going to talk about rhythm, where you now have to become a composer and create rhythmic compositions using GarageBand MIDI implementation of software. So for a lot of that, it's very challenging. Because they, of course, have to work with the click track, they have to try to structure a little form, and I said, well, you know about this stuff intellectually, but can you create syncopations? Can you create polyrhythms? And I just see how much the students have. Because it's probably, in these types of classes, I'm sure maybe you have more diversity than I do, but I have people who probably can't find little C on the piano. The people who play more piano lessons than I have had in my life. Wow, what a group. How do you find meaning with these dance classes that have music as the content? Okay, so we do that rhythm with GarageBand, and then I thought, all right, let's take a plunge. So I have them use Kathy's book, and we then look at elements of pitch, scales, all that, and say, okay, how many of you can create something via MIDI that really is an exploration of melody, pitch, maybe whole tone scales. Of course, I have to go over this. I have to hold some hands. Some people seem to pick this up. Other people are like, wow, I don't know what you're talking about. So I have different levels, like novice, intermediate, advanced. If you're an advanced music tons of piano, well, I hope we have more than 3 blind mice. So at least I think they're getting a sense of creating and understanding, okay, this is a melody, these are little motifs that they're trying to actually plunk it out, so all right. Then the last area I think I'll do with GarageBand / MIDI is intervals, harmonies, so they get some idea of vertical structures, dealing with consonants and dissonance. All right, so that's that one area. Then I thought, okay, since this is the only class in music for dance, and we've got all this to cover, they probably need to know a little bit about reviewing the history of Western music, just a little snippet, so I can bring elements of texture in and elements of again, forms that are more historical. And right away bridging into the 20th century and current music that they don't know about. Okay. And I find that, like what did I ask the other day? I said, oh, some of you know, afternoon the phone, you say, nobody's home. What are you talking about? Okay, all right. Let's continue to talk about whatever, AC/DC or whatever. Anyway, the point is that I use this book by Bill Duckworth. Maybe some of you know Bill Duckworth's work as a composer up now. And Bill's quite a good writer of music and a kind of condenser of information. He has this book called 2020, which is 20 interviews with 20 composers. Some are interviews, some are just like really chapters, the best way to explain it. So 20 figures of the 20th century, and they're one piece that he considers, I guess, really very important. So it runs everybody from Debussy through Lloyd Anderson. So I pick out a chunk and think, this will turn them on. And of course, I work to myself, to the composers in Duckworth's book that have had careers as dance collaboration. Obviously, Stravinsky, Steve Reich, who else was in there? Lou Anderson, of course, Luke Cage, I do Sugar, just so they have some idea. So therefore, we're doing a chunk of, what people would call academia, modern music history, new music history. But I feel they have to have some exposure to that. And you can listen to some of these pieces, write a little essay, we'll discuss it, and try to correlate that to what's happened in modern dance aesthetics, how music is helping change that world. So, and then after, 4 or so weeks of that, I think, as I'm speaking about a class currently, that I'll go back into GarageBand, show a little bit of the other elements of that, and maybe even throw some, have to do some quick time videos of their own work, a little choreography, try to, for whatever, come up with some music that they either make, edit, what have you, that's still a creative process for their own dance via QuickTime so we can watch it. Or if they say, well, that's way over my head, then someday at least we'll do it in the studio, our space, something around. But anyway, and that to me right now is how that 3-credit course would go. So it's, you know, the dilemma is how do we try to condense all that, in my case, into that one course, because after that, there's nothing. And these are sophomore students. And of course, sometimes when I've taught this class before, I'll have mostly seniors who, for whatever reason, have avoided the class. If it's not moving, if they're not really out there, you know, learning, training, they'll say, why should I take it? Why should I take it? So they'll try to get out, and they'll say, hey, wait a minute, you can't graduate, you have this class. So they'll come in. And the odd thing is, look at my dance faculty partners and say, the odd thing is, geez, they're seniors, but man, they really don't know what's going on musically. Not only literacy-wise, but, you know, really just basic things. And it's like, you know, so then I thought about that. I thought the reason probably is because there's no integration. Meaning that they take the class, but the technique teachers, the repertoire, you name them, all the way down the line, they really don't integrate with the music. Because they're so busy teaching whatever they have to teach. You know, composition, but they're doing it from a very different approach, or they're doing just repertory, so they put out a piece of what, Yo-Yo Ma or Bobby McFerrin. They just go for it, everybody works on the phrasing and all this. So the music is never really brought up again intensely. And I thought, gee, that's kind of tough because they're going to get out there, they're going to be out trying to, I don't know, maybe competing in a world where a lot of these people just know this code. They're talking about something. And they're really fine musicians in a certain way. And they can hear this stuff and they know it. And I think, geez, it puts these kids at a real disadvantage. But that seems to be the reality. So anyway, that's my overview. If anybody would like to see the course outline, I did break something, whatever it's worth. I'd like to just see how we face these dilemmas. I'm sure it's endemic to our chosen world here as music people and dance departments.
Can you talk a little more about the use of technology? How does that work out?
Oh, they love it. They love the technology. They like it a lot. And they all are, of course, amazed how much you can do with something like GarageBand. I tell them, hey, wait a minute, you're not composers, you're editing. But now if you try to, then we can say you're making it, so yeah, you're composers. So it's easy enough that they can learn. And they can teach this in junior high school. You see what I'm saying? And that GarageBand, that program is very powerful. That's a really major role. It's like taking just a digital performer and putting it into a little package on the Macintosh. It's really incredible. So they like it. I do another class, which I call Sound Design, which comes out of my InterArts program. But that's open to all art people, music makers, whoever wants to take it. And some dancers, like now, I have them in there and I think, oh boy, they're doing okay, but it's pretty heavy on the technology, pro tools, and things like that. So sometimes they're not, that's a little over the head, but they do it. Big measure to sound like class for dance makers.
Do you use the notation part of GarageBand, or are you working strictly with the MIDI?
Yes.
You do.
I find that for a lot of them, they like that because they can switch it from MIDI to notation, and then they can use the quantizer.
That's a new feature.
No, the only thing that's new is you can actually print it out now. Finally, you can print it out. Before you couldn't print it out, you could always look at it on a page, but it was just one long line. But now in the 08 version, you can actually print it out.
Yeah, because I found a lot of people work with MIDI, but then they don't get into the notation, so when they're wanting to communicate to a musician, they don't have time. Whether it's on 12A or time signatures, quarter notes, 16th notes.
Sure.
Bypass that whole process.
Yeah, they were very impressed when I showed them that one day. I said, okay, you're tapping a rhythm, whatever, and you can see this piano scroll, but let's click here, and then it'll make it into notations. So I said, now the trick for you is you have to put in these rhythms, and how are you going to get the things happening? And so they would use the notation resolution to really prove that they had the correct rhythms, the 3/2s, and things like that. So
Do you have a lab for this, or are these people working on their own laptops?
well, I location has 12 racks in it for that specific aspect of the course. Then I have a room upstairs within the dance building that has 2 computers outfitted with a mini little keyboard, battery operated keyboard. But it's enough, it's fine. It's a portable keyboard that.
Many of them just, have their own laptop and just do cut and paste.
Yeah, I think probably of this group, about 2 or 3 that have their own laptops that can explore this. They're at least not Windows laptops. Yeah, it seems that I haven't heard any complaining about, oh, gee, we can't get to it, we can't figure it out, or we have no access. I haven't heard any of that. So it's a small group.
How many students usually have this course? How many students usually have?
Well, I cap it at 12. Otherwise, I feel they're totally lost. That louder.
No, I think the situation in TWU is that they don't take rhythmic training, they don't take music appreciation. And what they did is what you're trying to do, and we try to add a little bit of that, and we try to add a little bit of music appreciation, and it's 2 credits.
Yeah, see.
However, there is a lab, computer lab, right in the dance department that has 15 Mac projects all the way to the garage band. And one of the things they all have to do is learn how to edit. And, we use Sound Edit 16, which is
Sure.
yeah, and they all have to learn how to do that. So it's really the same design as what you're doing, but all we can do is dip their toe in this. I'm running back to this, and this is all what we teach in 1 2-hour course. And
When I sit back and look at that objective, this is crazy, but this is what's going on all around the country.
yes, and the irony is I do exactly what you do in terms of Portland, when it's back and then leader is back. It's hysterical.
Yeah.
How many hours a week is your class?
It's 2 75-minute sessions. Yeah, I couldn't imagine not having that rhythmic training class as a prerequisite for something like this, because I expect them to know, even though, of course, I know if I really quiz them out, there'll be some people who are foggy about and say, what is that? It's 3 4. So because they're not using that information, not applying it on a daily basis, so they have a thing. Let's say you have a compound meter, or it could be a 6/8, whatever. Oh, yeah, I think I heard about that. But I think that's a big dilemma. Is that stuff just stays in these classes, unless the dance faculty people say, oh, I don't know it. Why should they know it? I just don't know. That's kind of that's why I thought I'd come and throw all these things out and see what people know.
I was going to ask you how you evaluate. Do you have projects, or how do you evaluate? Do you have projects or quizzes?
Oh, you mean the creative garage band?
No, for the whole course. Do you have certain projects that? How do you grade them?
Well, for the garage band projects where they're creatively doing something, as long as they do it, and I feel they're learning and they're advancing whatever level they're coming in, that's fine. And then with the history projects, I like, there's a nice idea if you ever see Rob's book, not the training book, but Rob had this other one I thought was kind of the idea, but graphically doing a score. So I'll give them a choice of certain pieces that they will have to analyze, but not in an academic music way, but they'll come up with some graphic notations showing whatever they pulled out of a piece like Appalachian Spring, a little bit of that, or whatever. And that kind of evaluation. I do not do the typical, objective information types of quizzes. I do very little of that. I used to do more, but I'm getting away from that. You know what I mean? Like doing a C and a D flat, saying, okay, what interval is that? I don't think I'll do that much, if at all. So for the history, they're also listening blogs. They have to listen and write out little essays and show me that they're really keeping up with this. And a lot more of a reading and then reacting to the readings from Kathy's book, Ear Training, things of that nature. But it's not an objective and multiple choice, factual, music theory. Let's write out, a mixolydian scale on G flat. I don't.
So where do they get music resources, like where they can actually find music for dance?
Well, you speak about CDs or scores or?
No, I'm talking about some source other than FM radio. Like library sources.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, UW-Madison is a huge library system. So, it's an enormous resource for them. Unfortunately, the only downside is that students cannot take out CDs. They can check out scores, but scores for most of the dance majors are superfluous. But they can listen to anything there if they want to. The cool thing that Madison has, if the students were interested in learning about music, would be two things. The dance program has a little music library now that John Scoville was, I think, interested in. One of our professors had said, geez, this is the kind of thing he was doing in Utah. Maybe, here's a list, and we had some money, so a lot of that was purchased, and I had some things I gave to them. So it's a nice little CD library, ranging from everybody from Bang on the Calf Music Festival to, Bach, concertos. What I found for the library, I don't know if your libraries have this, they have these wonderful, what should I call it? Kind of like subscriptions. You can get to Naxos and some of these record labels, and from university-affiliated computer, you can tap into that and have the whole library of Naxos, and I don't know what's other. So it's like going into iTunes for free. So therefore, if I told the students about that and said, listen to, Ride a Spring or something, and they said, well, I don't want to hear why, I don't want to do this. They could type into the university library system to Naxos, and just comes up and they can listen in their dorms, their homes, whatever. So is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that, most of the students that I know are pretty internet savvy, and I'm just wondering if you spend any time with them on trying to wade through this music resources.
That's, I don't know, I haven't really, it just comes out of the class, but I don't really, it's part of that, but I think, that's an idea, at least to know how to get things, because it's not part of their regular cultural world.
You know what, it's really always strikes me, and I think probably every major program has big graduate programs. We have our students come in, graduate students, and we give them a little test to see what they know. And we ask them what undergraduate they had in dance course. And so we see from all the country these results of these undergraduate music for dance courses. The one music for dance course that they had. The one. Every program has one music for dance course, and they come, and so they learn nothing. It feels like it's been a couple years since they took that one course, and they forgot most all of it. And it just strikes me how incredibly inadequate all these programs are. And it's not our fault, it's just the setup of having one class. I was thinking that we should address that. That we should make all the people who we represent all the major graduate programs here, and write a statement that says, these are the training at the undergraduate level is totally inadequate for the needs of students. And here's the proof. When they come to the graduate programs, they are unprepared. And they have to start over as if they're freshmen, as if they are undergraduate students. Now, I know that's getting political here.
It is getting political.
But
is it realistic? I'm sorry, I'm not representing. Is it realistic? The thing that I've observed in the 30 years, when you guys said 30 years ago, there wasn't so much dance theory. There wasn't so much need for dancers to be all dance, all understand all dance. I mean, valley people were valley people, modern people were modern people, jazz people were jazz people. Now, dancers have to do all of that.
Yeah.
And African and everything else combined. And now, because of the growth in the field of dance, there really is a lot of good theory and stuff that they have to learn. And now the body stuff that they have to do. I mean, so the curriculum for an undergraduate dancer is already so filled, it's becoming more and more filled with really good dance stuff that is it realistic for us to expect more than 1 3-hour course?
Well, what's happening
It's
is,
horrible. I'm not advocating that, but what I'm saying is,
You're talking about the very challenges that the universities face, because I know at my university a number of years ago they were concerned because students were taking 5 years to complete a 4-year bachelor's degree, or 6 years, and the parents, the parents were getting very upset about this. So they forced us to limit the number of credit hours that our undergraduates can take, and I think it's at our school it's 124. And Keith is absolutely right. When you look at the rest of the curriculum, our students are required to take 6 units of music, but I only have 2. One. You have 2. I have 1 music class in the spring. I get them for 4 hours a week. And luckily we have live music in the class, and I do have faculty that reference music in the class constantly. But this is part of the problem with encouraging the extra dance classes. And they do get it in teaching methods class, and they do get it in my seminar for music and dance collaborations class, but not all undergraduates go there.
it's
So it's a curricular challenge, although I agree with you, there's nothing wrong with us as a group and as an organization just making some statement about that.
yeah, we should make sense.
But that's the challenge.
Yeah.
It's got, if we don't do it, there will never be, the change can't, or might not happen, I guess.
But so much of this is really a general curriculum issue, and also how do you approach what it is that you're teaching, and then how does it filter through the rest of the curriculum. And the thing that's most interesting is, about a year ago I was at the graduate director's DOGS conference, directors of graduate. And we were trying to figure out, okay, well, I was trying to get a sense from these people who run dance and graduate programs, what they feel is important. What are the most important things that they feel an incoming graduate student needs to have in terms of music? And no one would say anything because, number one, they're not comfortable with their own knowledge of it. So then it started me thinking, well, maybe it's not about stuff. Maybe it's not about they have to know music from this period, they have to know this from this period, they have to understand how this works with that, and they have to have all of these things that they know about, but it might be more related to more of a general way of approaching things.
Which, if I can interrupt, we will now turn things over to Rob.
So after teaching this music literature for dance class for 23 years, I just started to get really frustrated and bored and couldn't figure out what is going on here. Why are they not making certain choices, or why are they having these habitual responses to things over and over and over again? Then I realized when people go to concerts, they don't necessarily see what they're seeing or hear what they're hearing. They're having a certain association to it. So I realized that for me, the most important thing that I could leave them with was the ability to recognize or to observe their own judgment.